Hi, I'm Rachel Dreskin from Seasonal Brooklyn. Seasonal Brooklyn is a blog dedicated to bringing you recipe ideas and tips for eating as locally, sustainably, and fresh as possible. So now I'm going to show you a recipe for my favorite wintertime vegetable side dishes, braised fennel topped with panko and Parmesan cheese. So this fennel I got from the farmer's market. It comes into season in the fall and stretches into the winter months. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take about 2 medium-sized fennel bulbs that I've already washed, and I'm going to just cut off the very tops, which are called the fennel fronds. Once I have the tops cut off, then I'm also going to cut off just about a 1/4 inch or so of the bottom. But I do want to leave the core intact. And then I'm going to just pull off the very outer layer. Now fennel has a nice anise or licorice flavor to it, and it's the most strong when it's raw. But when it's cooked, it has a really mellow, sweet flavor. I'm going to slice this in 1/3 of an inch or 1/4 inch slices. Get some heat going, about medium heat or so, on a heavy bottom pan or Dutch oven. And then I'm going to add in about a tablespoon or so of olive oil, just enough to coat the bottom of the pan. So now that the oil is hot, it's on medium-high heat, I'm going to start adding in the fennel. So once I have a single layer down, I'm going to let that hang out for a couple of minutes until it gets a nice brown color on one side, and I'm going to flip it and let it brown up on the other side. So the fennel has been browning up on one side, so I'm just going to check, and that caramelization on the bottom there is exactly what we want to see. And now I have it searing on the other side. I'm just going to give this a sprinkle of some salt just to season up the fennel, and a little bit of fresh ground pepper. And now I'm going to let that caramelize on the other side as well. And again, I'm working in batches so that it allows the fennel to caramelize. Putting too much fennel in the pan at one time is going to prohibit the fennel from caramelizing properly. So now that my second batch of fennel has caramelized and browned up a little bit, I'm going to season this batch up with a little bit of salt and pepper again. And then I'm going to add my first batch of fennel back into the pan. Now that all the fennel is back in the pan, I'm going to start braising it. So to braise, you have to add some liquid. We're going to gently cook the fennel in the braising liquid. So here I have a 1/2 cup of chicken stock. I'm going to add that in, and then I'm going to add in about a 1/4 cup of filtered water. The stock tends to be very salty, which is why I'm adding in some filtered water as well, so that way I can control how salty the end dish is. So now the liquid is back up to a simmer, and I'm going to let this braise for about 15 minutes. So while the fennel is braising here, I'm going to get started on the breadcrumb topping, which really makes this dish quite special. I'm going to take about 2 tablespoons of butter. So I'm going to take about 1/3 of a cup of panko breadcrumbs. So I'm just going to toast up the breadcrumbs in the butter, and then I'm going to add a generous pinch of salt, and again more pepper. So as soon as the breadcrumbs have taken on just a little bit of color, I'm going to turn off the heat and remove them from the heat so they don't burn. So the fennel's been braising for about 15 minutes. I'm just going to check it, and I'm going to check to make sure that it's fork tender. So I have a baking dish over here, and I'm just going to carefully remove the fennel, and I'm going to transfer this to the baking sheet. So now that we have the fennel in the baking dish, I'm going to cover it with these buttered breadcrumbs. And I'm also going to add a little bit of fresh grated Parmesan cheese on top as well. And I'm just going to transfer this into the oven. You can put it in the oven on a really hot temperature or under the broiler, either way is fine. And I'm going to let that go for just about 3 or 4 minutes until everything is browned and bubbly on top. That's exactly what we're looking for. And that crunchy topping is going to be a really nice contrast to the soft, mellow fennel. That is all ready. I'm just going to sprinkle that with a little bit of fresh parsley. And there we have it. Braised fennel with panko and Parmesan.